Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about health journeys. Join us as we learn how functional medicine can be the key to unlocking a difficult diagnosis and what it sometimes takes to solve long-standing medical issues. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're going to be interviewing one of Mindy's longtime friends, Jennifer Walker. And Mindy and Jennifer have known each other for over 15 years, and a lot has changed in that time. Mindy has told her story before of her health journey and how she lost over 60 pounds and kept it off. And listeners, I did not look that up before we started recording, but I will put a link to that episode in our show notes because that was amazing, Mindy's health journey. I think you may have shared that maybe on 2 different podcasts, Mindy. I'm not sure.
We had where the 3 of us did an update health-wise, because with each move, your world is rocked. And so health is ongoing.
Yes. But then also we had one just solely dedicated to that. So I'll try to find the links for both of those and put those in the show notes. But of course, you also have a good friend. It seems like like-minded people find each other. So you have a friend that also went through a big health journey, and today we're going to talk to her about her health journey. Jennifer's going to share with us her journey of becoming healthy and the steps she took to get there. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're just thrilled to have you. And we want you to tell a little bit about yourself, but Mindy, why don't you tell me how you even know Jennifer?
Jennifer and I met when we were both just, I'm going to say it like this. We were both just hot messes. Young moms going through difficulties, trying to have children, trying to raise children, then having children, then, oh my goodness, just all that entails being a young mom. And so Jennifer and I found each other, I'll say the last time I lived near Atlanta. We just became fast friends. She is a joyful, fun person and just has such a servant's heart. But we met, like I said, when we were living in Atlanta. But Jennifer and I have been able to keep in touch throughout the years, through all of my moves. In fact, we used to hang out so much that our boys called each other cousins, which was really cute. We both have a Jacob right now that's a senior in high school. So that's kind of fun. I have to say, going through a health journey, like what I went through watching, Jennifer, and I can't wait to hear her story because this is a truly spiritual, miraculous journey. It's hard and it's daily. And I hope that it is inspiring as we delve into her personal story. But I'm just thankful for my friend to be able to be willing to be on here today and share.
Yes, for sure. Well, Jennifer, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my husband, Donnie, and I have been married close to 24 years now. We have 3 boys. Caleb is 19, Jacob is 18, and Ethan is 13. And we live currently, we moved here about 2018 in a suburb outside of Atlanta called Peachtree Corners. And my husband is a Georgia Tech graduate. I graduated from USF in Tampa. And we love to golf and hike, and we're kind of a bit of foodies. We love going out and trying new places and going out.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about your story. And why don't we just start right at the beginning? Because you sound like a really active person. And so it's hard for me to kind of imagine you struggling with living healthy. But did you struggle with that?
Growing up, I've never really struggled with that. I was always very active. I felt, healthy. I was an athlete nearly most of my life. I played softball and basketball through high school and even played softball into college. And I didn't have any health challenges. And honestly, I have always felt like an Energizer bunny most of my life until later on. So yeah, I don't think I ever experienced any other struggles.
Jennifer, can you kind of describe when the struggle started with your health?
Yeah. So thinking back, I was trying to look back and see when the symptoms started. And I believe it was probably around 2015 and 2016. Just some of the common symptoms. I was constantly cold. I would crash at 2 p.m. or just live on coffee, doing tasks, even like curling my hair just felt like moving a mountain. And Some of the worst parts was my hair was falling out. My eyebrows actually fell out, the hair out of my eyebrows. I think at one point I remember my eyelashes even fell out. And I was anxious and extremely emotional. So that's when those were the symptoms that kind of started it all. I did go to the doctor and they tested me for thyroid, but they always said, well, your levels look normal. So there's not really anything that we can do. And knowing something wasn't right, I went back probably 2 or 3 more times, and they finally decided to put me on Synthroid and said that my TSH, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone, was creeping up. And so even though they felt like it was still in the acceptable range, they said, we'll go ahead and give you this and see if that helps. So I believe that was probably around 2016 when I finally went on that for hypothyroidism.
So like for a year, you were trying to find out answers. Right.
And they wouldn't do anything because they said your, thyroid is in the acceptable range that, it isn't, we don't think you have a problem with that.
How did that make you feel to go to the doctor, to know something wasn't right, and then to be faced with their answer?
I believe this was probably one of the most frustrating things, to go through, because you just don't feel like you're understood, but you know your body and you don't feel right. So it's a very frustrating process for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I would feel apologetic going in, but then upset
and kind of feel
left.
a little crazy in a way, like, oh, I'm crazy for feeling this, but I know something's not right.
But you can't argue with someone's hair falling out. Like, isn't that self-evident to the doctor?
Right.
But I feel like, don't you, Marie, don't you feel like that's written off so easily? Like the doctor's like, oh yeah, that's normal. Like a lot of women will lose hair during stressful seasons or, during certain seasons of, how old they are. Like that's normal. You're fine. Take some biotin.
Right.
What kind of doctor were you going to see, Jennifer?
So this was just a family practice doctor.
Okay.
Conventional. Yeah.
Okay. So what really was the catalyst that finally made you look in a different direction to try to advocate for your health in another way?
So in 2018, I was still not feeling well. We had actually moved to the town that we are in now. And so I needed to find some new doctors. So I decided, since I'm still struggling with all of this, to go try to find a gynecologist first, because I thought surely they deal with women, they deal with hormones, maybe this is my answer. So basically I went there and she prescribed birth control to me. And she said, well, this will probably help you regulate your hormones. And knowing what I know now, I would have never accepted that, but I did, because I was grasping at straws at this point, just desperate. And so unfortunately the birth control backfired and just exasperated everything. So I went off of that and actually found a family doctor. And I think he pretty much ignored all the other symptoms that I was having and just went on me being emotional and tried to prescribe antidepressants. And
Jennifer.
Yeah. And I did not accept those because I said, you don't understand. I'm not depressed. There's something else to this, So then I left there.
Yeah.
Just so defeated. And so after so many dead ends, I started researching thyroid disease on my own and what, if anything, I could do to help treat myself, because I was just coming at dead end after dead end. So this was probably well into 2019 at least. And I started to learn the term functional medicine. And I know it had been around for a while, but it's not as commonplace, as it is today. So as I dug further, I was so fascinated by it and how it could possibly help me. And so I taught or learned about like supplements and vitamins and things that could help support my thyroid. And as I dug deeper, I, found out that there was even certain foods and, things that I should probably not eat that would help, heal that and support my thyroid better. But then again, I'm not a doctor. So to know what dosage of what things to take and combine and everything else. I just got completely overwhelmed. But then, I guess it was 2020, there was a functional announcement of like a functional medicine practice and chiropractic care center that was going to open in our area. And I was hesitant until I knew more about the process and the pricing, because, you've heard all sorts of things like it's outrageous and, they make you stick to this plan and charge you a fortune each month. I'd heard all different stories, but when I investigated it more and took the steps in September of 2020 is when I had my first labs drawn from this place. And basically my journey began from there.
Now, so you, and maybe you don't want to have any spoiler alerts. So you basically were attacking it as a thyroid problem, even though you were on the Synthroid and your levels were technically within limits. But you felt like it was a thyroid problem.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I basically had all the symptoms, And
is that common for people to have all the symptoms, but their levels to be?
I think it's very common. You could have the symptoms and, the range that the conventional doctors go off of. Yeah, I think it's a struggle for a lot of women for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, can you describe like what the different approaches are between when you went to see all these different primary care doctors and then the first time you went to see the functional medicine doctor?
Sure. Yeah. Like conventional doctors, they're regulated by the insurance company in what labs they can draw, what will be covered. So for instance, my thyroid, they would typically only test for TSH, which is the thyroid stimulating hormone, and go off of that one basis for, diagnosing or, and so for functional medicine, it's a whole body approach. So while the conventional doctors may only draw that one test for thyroid, functional medicine is going to draw, 7 different tests.
Oh.
So they are drilling down. They want to get to the root cause of your issues. They want to see the bigger picture and what else could be contributing to your symptoms and not just treat the symptom.
Right.
But unfortunately, functional medicine does not usually involve insurance. So that is a drawback. It's usually a cash-based system. And typically, like for me, functional medicine, I go back every 3 months to have labs drawn and, re-looked at instead of once a year like a conventional doctor. But I actually do find that so beneficial because your body reacts so differently to different things, medication you're taking or your supplements or your food even can adjust the levels in your body, if you're not doing the right things. So to me, it's almost like a reset every 3 months to make sure that you're on track doing the right thing that's going to, be the best for your body.
This is truly fascinating to hear. In kind of a shallow way, it's almost like I hear you saying like a conventional doctor to keep you alive.
Right.
Because they're like, Jennifer, like you're okay, like you're not dying.
Right.
But then it's almost like then the functional medicine said, okay, let's take it a step further. Let's help you actually live well.
Exactly.
Like thrive with your life. And so I think that's the difference here that we need that we need to kind of hear is that, yes, there's a place for both. And I love, Jennifer, that you're sharing your story to live better, to live in a thriving sense.
And I like
over
to say,
just not
living optimally, instead of just living at a baseline, you're going to live optimally, and so that's what I think the difference is.
Right. And obviously at the age group that we're all kind of in, hormones play a huge factor and are changing so much during our midlife stage. And so sometimes you could do the same thing that you did to feel good in your 20s and 30s, maybe early 40s. And then it's like everything is overnight and you're kind of mystified thinking, what is going on? And so that's what Jen is saying. And I hope everyone can hear that that's what helped her finally find answers to be able to take kind of an advocate approach to her own life. So Jennifer, can you describe maybe the moment the light bulb went off in your head and you're like, this is it. I have found the keys to my health.
Yes. So as mentioned in September 2020, that was the first time that I had labs drawn at our functional medicine practice here. And as I was presented with the results, the practitioner said, "I know why you feel the way you do." And my eyes just flooded with tears because I'm like, okay, nobody has said that yet. In all these years, I'm like, okay. So I'm like sitting on the edge of my seat, like, what is it? So basically, at that time, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. So, in addition to the hypothyroidism, so Hashimoto's disease is an autoimmune condition in which your immune system attacks your thyroid. So, even though I was on the Synthroid and needed it, I was missing, another component like medication to help with the Hashimoto's. And therefore, that's why I continued feeling so bad, even after I was on that medicine. So, that was really the turning point. And then at that point, you also see, where you're deficient, like in minerals and supplements in your body, that is needed to have your body, operate optimally. So at that point, I got on the right supplements and all that would support my thyroid and help different areas of my body.
So they were saying that you needed the Synthroid plus another medication.
That's right.
Okay.
And so I remember taking that extra medication, and I literally, I can feel what it felt like when it finally kicked in. It was like the clouds just started lifting off of my head.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Energy came back. So I remember that moment.
Well, I imagine that a lot of people who are listening who have maybe also experienced taking Synthroid and then still haven't felt better would be saying, ask her what it was.
Right.
Are you comfortable sharing what the other one was?
Yeah, it's called Cytomel, and it's a T3 component. Basically, it contains T3.
Okay.
And Synthroid's more of the T4.
So maybe that's something that someone could look up and inquire with their doctor about, knowing that, hey, my story sounds similar to hers.
Right. But they'll never really know because that is an extra, lab blood work that is, additional to see that you are lacking in that, or for Hashimoto's that you have the antibodies present there.
I love hearing the transition, even in your own voice, the joy that comes as you describe finally getting to the point of the clouds lifting. And I know that then started a whole nother journey for you. I would love to hear you delve into then the steps that you personally took with food, with working out. You'd mentioned you have always been active, and I know this about you. Excellent competitive player. We had a mean kickball tournament when we were younger, and Jennifer's going to get it. But but kind of describe then what you did for your own personal health in correlation to food, exercise, sleep, anything else in that arena.
Well, first and foremost, I think after this, knowing that I wasn't insane for feeling the way I felt was really the biggest relief. And then second, I was going to do whatever they told me because I was so desperate. So,
right.
If they didn't say this, but I'm like, if they tell me to take 20 supplements, whatever it's going to take, I'm willing because I just want to get better. But, and my family would just crack up because I was so over the top at this point. I bought like all the individual like pill containers to separate out my medicines by the time and the supplements, and making sure that I was on track every day because I was like, this is it. This is my moment. I'm finally going to feel better. But it's funny now because I get the last laugh because each of them all have their own pill containers now. So we can all pretend that we're 90 years old.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Merry Christmas.
That's right. But yes, at this time is when they did encourage me to go gluten-free. They do say dairy-free, which I'm mostly dairy-free. I'll eat some plain Greek yogurt every once in a while, but I definitely went gluten-free because it can trigger inflammation in your body. That happened at that point. I was on the right supplements, on the right medication. And then it's just trying to change so much at once is hard. And so just to focus on, okay, being able to get your meds and your supplements right. And then next, I need to focus on, priority should be going gluten-free. But I think I always had like the all or nothing approach, and so I had to break it down in pieces and like master each piece along the way before I felt like everything was incorporated together.
Mm-hmm. How long did the journey take you, Jennifer? Because it sounds like, like you said, it's not instantaneous. They don't give you a list of instructions and you go home and the next morning you're gluten-free and you're taking all the right supplements and all that. So like, how long did that take you to implement? And then kind of where are you now?
Immediately, I did change to gluten-free and making sure that my meds and my supplements were on track. That probably took a good, 3 months just to adjust and kind of educate myself more on the gluten-free diet. But of course, that's hard because when you go out to eat, it's not likely that they are going to be super careful and bring you a whole plate that has not touched any gluten,
So you went that far, like you didn't want it to even touch gluten.
No, well, yes, because honestly, the antibodies that show up in your system actually show how much exposure to gluten you've had. And I will say, even to today, that is a challenge to get down because, like I said, we like to go out to eat. And
I was going to say, but I know you're out eating all the time.
Right. But now I'm 3 years on this journey of healing. And I have to say that I feel the best that I've felt in years. I feel joyful and full of hope and have so much, through this, have so much passion and compassion for women, especially those that struggle with not feeling their best or struggle with their weight or just feeling defeated. And, I truly believe, God has gifted me with this lens of compassion, through my own struggles to want to build up women around me and share with what I have found that has helped me, bring me to where I am today. So I'm thankful y'all have me on here. But as far as my diet, I do try to focus primarily on protein consumption and whole foods. I'm definitely not perfect, but I do have this mindset, like even if we're on vacation, I try to just stay on track with that thought process of, food. And then far as exercise, that's actually taken me a while. This is, like we said, I've always been active, but I was, I think I'm sure many women can relate to this, but, I was trying to do like hardcore HIIT workouts or anything that I thought would burn the most calories and whip me into shape and lose weight. And what I didn't know is that it was actually hurting me more than raising, more than helping, because I was already in such a bad position with my health. And then when that happens, you're raising your cortisol levels and your body's just never recovering. And so my body was not giving me the results I wanted because it was just under stress. So that was very frustrating. But through more research and more, help, I have read that, strength training is so much better for, say, my condition, because it can also help you, your metabolism per se. So that's what I do now. I found that strength training, like heavy weights and like progressive overload training, which is, always constantly adding more weight or adding more reps, is what has transformed my physique. And then also coupled that with walking. So nothing, my body's probably like, thank you. She's not trying to kill us.
Yes.
Right. Because I remember feeling desperate, like, oh, I'm going to go out here and, do this crazy workout and hopefully I'll see the results. And I never, ever did.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, did the functional medicine doctor tell you to implement that kind of exercise routine, or was that just something that you researched and implemented on your own?
Yeah. So I basically just researched that on my own. I mean, they will, we've had discussions. But I think you also just have to find what's right for your body. And for me, that HIIT workout could be fine for somebody else that has Hashimoto's and, thyroid problems. But for me, it was not working. It was not, ending in good results.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah.
Health journeys are so individualistic, and that's what I love about this story.
They are.
So Jennifer, we are all in this either perimenopausal or menopausal state. Most of us that are listening to you right now, can you tell us how this has affected that in this season of your life?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny. I actually saw before we got on today that today is actually World Menopause Day. I had no idea that existed.
Good to know.
I was like, well, how funny, And so,
what do we do for each other for that?
That's right. Well, I guess it's a day that is held to raise awareness. I mean, this is what we're doing today. Break the stigma, which I have a story about that, and to share support. So I was like, how perfect is that?
Oh, I love it.
So basically, once you get your comprehensive labs done, the provider can actually see where you are in terms of nearing perimenopause or menopause.
Oh.
So I'm not an expert, but how I understand it is usually you have declining or fluctuating estrogen levels and even fluctuating progesterone levels. And so these hormonal changes are what, start the symptoms of perimenopause. So in functional medicine, they're going to look at where they're seeing these decreases or these fluctuations and can supplement with HRT or hormone replacement therapy. And this helps fill in the gaps and ease you a little better into perimenopause and menopause without hopefully having a huge dumpster fire of symptoms. Which I do have a story on that because I have a friend that recently went to her doctor. She's been miserable. She's several years older than I am, but she, is experiencing all the classic menopausal symptoms, absolutely miserable. And basically they said, yeah, it just stinks. This kind of just tells her, that this is what happens during this time. And I'm like, no, it's let me share with you. And so now she is at the practice that I go to and filled with hope and feeling better from the proper treatment. So I'm just here to tell you, you do not have to live this way at all. There is help.
Yeah. When you go to the traditional doctor, I feel like you have to have a bullet point list and they have like 10 minutes and at minute 7, they're already looking at the door like, how long is she going to take? And it's just a very high pressure situation. And for a questioner like me, I want to hear the reasoning behind the treatment or I might not buy into it. Like there's got to be time to tell me why the birth control is going to help me, or I'm just not going to take it. There's got to be time to tell me why that extra thyroid medicine is going to work, or I'm not going to take it. Like there has to be some built-in time. So when you go to the functional medicine doctor, is there a longer period of time that they get to see you?
Yes. So actually, I want to say it might be a 5-minute window of time that your practitioner has been given through the insurance company.
5 minutes. That's just not enough time.
It's not enough, so let's just treat the symptom, give you a script and send you on your way. And so the nice thing is that you get your comprehensive labs done. And on your first visit that you ever go there, your appointment is 1 hour long. But what I love about the functional medicine side of it is because they are educating you on what is going on. So Marie, that's like right up your alley because you want, and that's me. I want to know why. And so the first portion of this meeting, this 1 hour long meeting is educating you and showing you on these little graphs and diagrams and just talking about it of why they're looking at what they're looking at. And then the other portion of that is going line by line, through your lab report, showing you, where things can be improved or, where you're good. And it's just fascinating to me. And I've learned so much through this process that I don't, of course you need your regular doctor, you're not going to go, to the functional medicine doctor for a broken arm or whatever, so, but this is just, it's life-changing, honestly.
Well, it sounds like if you have more of a complicated thing and the traditional doctor has already ruled out I don't want to say normal diagnoses, but just the more obvious diagnoses. If they've already ruled that out, but it's more of an issue of, okay, well, the things that you're telling me aren't wrong. Okay, that's great, but I still don't feel good. So it sounds like maybe the functional medicine doctor, I mean, you might still go to your traditional doctor, and then if they can't answer, maybe look into functional.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think some functional medicine doctors do take insurance, because I was taking my daughter to one, and like the office visit is covered, but it is harder to find ones that do take insurance.
Well, Jennifer, can you tell us, you have had major life change here. You spoke to just your emotional well-being, your hormonal well-being, your energy level, the joy you have in life. And you're a busy mom with these 3 boys and being married. And I mean, the move that was in there, I know you had a couple moves in there throughout your time, but tell us how this has affected your family life and kind of the discussions and the interactions with Donnie, with the boys.
Basically through this, Donnie actually goes as well. So men in midlife too, declining hormone levels and everything else. So this was actually awesome for him. And just as a support, he went gluten-free with me 3 years ago. And first as a support, but then he recognized how much better he felt. And so that's been our journey together for sure. And he goes, there as much as I do. And now my 2 older boys go. So they treat 18 and up. And through that, we actually found out that one of them has the Hashimoto's antibodies. It really stinks. He's like, oh no, I've been hearing about this thyroid stuff all these years. And now, I've got, but the beauty of that is he could have gone years and years and years not diagnosed, and I kind of felt like he had some symptoms and some things going on that, I recognized. So that's been great. So now there's 4 of us.
Okay.
So it's a no question in the budget. This is what we're doing to improve our life, to be healthy. But then my youngest is my researcher. And so he reads the labels and finds like awesome gluten-free recipes for us to try. And he will not eat anything with like a seed oil in it. It's pretty hilarious. Like how
that's so this, Ethan. Oh my goodness.
So all of this has transpired. And so, but sometimes they still look at me if I tried to slip in like, some sort of gluten-free meal or something. They're like, is there no flour in this thing?
Oh my goodness.
But overall, they're just so supportive, and we've all just kind of jumped on the bandwagon together.
That's really good, because when you make a big lifestyle health journey change like that, you really do need the support of your family. I know, Mindy, that when you were going through the changes that you were making with exercise and, different times you might have been eating or different foods you were eating, if your family hadn't been on board, it'd be a lot easier to just say, oh, it's not even worth the fight.
Yeah. And I went for years like that, and I remember, similar to Jennifer, now our journeys are so different, but also the same feelings are there. Like before I went through the health journey, like it is, you just kind of like, okay, well, this is just the way it is. This is just how I feel. I'm just going to muddle through, and you feel awful. And it's amazing then the difference, after that learning curve. You've heard the saying, choose your hard. Like it's harder to be unhealthy going through life, being a wife, being a mother, going to work, being a daughter, being a neighbor. It's just, you're the same person, but you're a completely different person when you choose for your heart to be, I'm going to change my lifestyle. I'm going to change how I eat so that I feel better. I'm going to be proud of myself when I go to sleep tonight, and I'm going to feel good when I go to sleep tonight. And, there's just, it's just such a difference. It's like night and day. When the light bulb goes off and you decide to take charge of your health.
Well, Jennifer and Mindy, it's interesting that you both have health journeys, but they are a little bit different. But it's also great that you're willing to be vulnerable and share that process with people. And I know that, Mindy, you said that even while you were going through it, you were kind of quiet about it because you didn't want maybe people, I don't remember the reason, maybe you just didn't want people looking and like seeing if you were messing up.
I was afraid I was going to quit.
Okay.
You know, I was like, I don't need pressure from anyone else. I would rather somebody comment to me and say, oh, I see the difference. Not, I don't know. That just wasn't my personality. There are personalities out there that'll be like, hey, I'm putting this out there because I need the accountability. No, I reached out for help when I finally hired a trainer, and that was in our budget. You know, when you make a financial commitment to your health, I'm just going to put this out there. You are so highly motivated to meet that financial commitment. If you feel it in the budget. So when I was feeling it in the budget, I was like, well, I have to show up. I paid her, you know? And then it really was, the hard work was between me and her. And we changed, she changed me. I had to be willing and show up. But anytime you kind of take the reins to your own life and decide to become an active participant, when you go on the offense, not always on the defense, life really does change. It really does. And then you can hear Jennifer's story. It then affects everyone around you. And it gives you such this overwhelming joy and hope to use those words, because those were the words I would describe that how I felt too. But you can be that person, that encourager for the people that then you come in contact with.
That's right.
So Jennifer, I know personally, when I look back at times in my life where I know I wasn't living well, I feel all the feelings when I see my own face from years ago. So when you look back at yourself during the seasons that you were really struggling and looking for answers, how do you feel now being where you are?
When all this changed, it was in, I think it was September 15th, 2020 was the first time I went and took the step to hopefully find the answers that I needed. And so I went back into my pictures and found a picture from September 12th of 2020 that I had. And I sent it to you guys, with a side by side of where I am now. And, it's not about the weight, and it's not about anything other than I took the steps it took to heal from the inside out. And when I look at that picture from September of 2020, that was probably one of my lowest points of not feeling great. You can see the inflammation in my face, that I felt bad, and so to flip that 3 years down the road, you just goes to show, it's a journey. It's not an overnight thing. And you have to continually be advocating for yourself and taking care of yourself, looking at the different things that I, went through to get here. It's a lot, but I hope that if nothing else, like people hear that it's worth it. It's worth it for your life. It's worth it for your family, for your kids. And I feel like I've healed from the inside out,
Yeah.
And, it's made all the difference.
Well, I'm sure that we have listeners that are either contemplating a health journey or just starting one, or maybe in the middle. And so I hope that this is encouraging, or they might know someone going through a health journey, and this will help them to encourage them. Listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We'd love to hear if you've made a radical transformation in your life. You can always find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast, or you can email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. Let's move into I'm a Fan. All right, Jennifer, you're the guest, so we're going to have you go first. What are you a fan of this week?
Okay, well, with all this talk about the journey that I've been through, I'm going to say that I'm a fan of Elite Personalized Medicine, and that is the functional medicine provider that I go to here in our area. And not only have they helped me transform my health, but they are some of the most caring and kind individuals. And honestly, they just feel like family at this point. But the good news is that, I know we have listeners from all over the country, and the good news is that you could work with them too. by a simple phone call, just seeing if they're licensed in your state, you have the capability to work with them, and I cannot recommend them enough. They've actually also kindly offered $100 off your first comprehensive labs if you mention the podcast.
Oh.
And on their website, you can fill out a form. It's at the top. For more information, it's at epmlife.com. And you can email them or call them, and we can have all that information listed for you in the show notes.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate that. Definitely tell them thank you. And what a great opportunity for somebody who's heard your story and maybe wants to get started on that.
Thank you.
All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
Okay, so I'm kicking it old school with my I'm a fan. I am a fan of the book of Ruth in the Bible. We've talked before. This seems probably really, really silly after this episode, but just going back and rereading something that I've read so many times and then taking time to think about it. So much of our health journey is mental, choosing what you think about.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, the book of Ruth has really helped me recently, reading her story and also looking back to my story. And I'll say the one thing that really just struck out to me is that in the beginning, Naomi kept saying the Lord afflicted her. And I can look back at my journey and say, I felt like the Lord was afflicting us during certain seasons, but also seeing how the story of Naomi came to fruition with Ruth. And I can also see in my own life how the Lord has worked out seasons of suffering and grief for our good, for his glory. And it just gave me a whole new perspective, even about the gift of suffering. Being able to see how God provided an opportunity. And so it just helps me trust him with today and the future. So I haven't done an I'm a fan like that before, but I really just felt like I wanted to share it today, the book of Ruth.
I love that. Thank you.
And I think the book of Ruth is pretty short. So
very short.
Yes, anyone can sit down and read it too.
That's right.
All right. Okay, this week I'm a fan of a monthly planner. It's fall and we have to start thinking about calendar appointments. And I actually had some doctor's appointments to make. And you have to schedule pretty far out. So I quickly discovered that, I don't have anything for 2024. So I need to get one. So I got a really pretty planner. My last planner was kind of thick and I don't need one with weekly goals, monthly goals. Like I don't have any goals. Like I just want to write down my appointments and have it be...
Ain't nobody got time for all that other stuff.
No, I'm not making any goals here, or at least that I'm writing down. So this one was very simplistic. It just has the whole calendar in front of you for the whole month, and then the whole next month at the very bottom of the page, which I need, and the month previous at the bottom of the page. And then it has one sheet for, little notes you want or important dates or something. So much more manageable. And you can spend like $40, $50 on planners. And this is $7.99 on Amazon.
Oh,
so
nice.
You really can't beat it. It's pretty. You won't mind seeing it out on your counter. And like I said, it's called the Simplified Monthly Planner. And it is very simplified. So I will put a link in our show notes.
We need all the simple we can get.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
I don't need my calendar to actually complicate my life.
Oh, no, that would stress me out.
And I appreciate that too, because I like pen to paper. That's
right.
how I like to see things too.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. We really enjoyed talking with you. I know that this is going to be inspirational for some of our listeners. And even if you're not going through a health crisis per se, a lot of the things could apply to other areas of our life. And so I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing with us today.
That's right. It was an honor to be here. Thank you.
Yes. And Mindy, we will talk with you next week.
Sounds great.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.